Circling vultures, they sense fear. And they don't come in screaming, swinging, or looking dangerous, but they do come in circling. They move slow, they measure you, they read your reactions, they test your breath, they study your silence, they watch what tightens in you when you feel surrounded. But the vultures that circle you, they don't live off your downfall, they live off your fear of it. They don't need you destroyed, they need you shaken enough to think you're next. These are people, systems, co workers, and family members, supervisors, and even old relationships. The ones who show up only when they sense you're tired, you're vulnerable, or questioning yourself because they think your fear is a doorway. So, the doorway, they believe this doorway gives them access to your weakened confidence, access to your gifts, a doorway to interrupt your progress, a doorway to convince you to hand over what they can never take by force. Vultures aren't hunters, they're opportunists. They wait for exhaustion, they wait for doubt, and they wait for you to question your own progress. And when you're chosen, you carry something very rare. And when you're stepping into new levels, that's what they wait on. They smell the transition before you do. So they don't have to touch you. They don't have to speak. They just need you to overthink, to doubt yourself, expect the worst, misinterpret your progress as a setback, and internalize what they want you to feel because your fear is an energy source. And when you're chosen, your fear is expensive fuel for free. And so they feed on your hesitation, your silence, your emotional exhaustion, your lack of certainty, and your desire to avoid confrontation, your empathy for people who wouldn't return it. Your hesitation becomes their signal, and your pause becomes their access. You pause, you stop, and they swoop right by you. And your self doubt becomes their advantage because while you're second guessing yourself, they use that as the timing for them to go ahead and take action because you're not in their you're not in the competition because you're too busy over in the corner doubting yourself. Vultures don't circle because you're weak. They circle because something powerful in your life is changing. So they sense that you are coming to an end. They can also sense when you are entering your beginnings, and they can sense when something old in you has died and something strong in you is being born. They circle because you're crossing a threshold they can't go through. So they circle because your old fears used to feed them, but your new strength starves them. And so what you see is pressure, they see as you evolving. And when what you see as intimidation, they see as your breakthrough rising. So the moment you breathe differently, you walk differently, you stop explaining, you stop apologizing and shrinking and reacting and overreacting, and you stop giving access out of guilt, the entire circle breaks because a vulture can't feed on a living, standing, grounded, intentional soul. They can only feed on what has given up. And so in you, you're still standing, you're rising, you are chosen. And there's going to come a moment when they realize that you're not collapsing, you're actually ascending. And what they thought was your ending was actually your rebirth. So they scatter, they retreat, they disappear. Because once your fear is no longer available, their purpose dissolves. So the moment certain people sense uncertainty in you, they start circling because they believe you're coming to your end, right? They feel this transition rising inside of you. They don't know what to believe. They're confused. They're trying to figure out, are you collapsing and they can feed, or is this something else? So they have to study you. And so they'll pretend they're checking in when they're actually checking your emotional temperature. They want to see if the old doubts in you can still be stirred. They know they can't overpower you, so they look for the doorway created when fear tries to whisper. The circling is never random. It's intentional, it's strategic, and always timed to moments when your life is stretching into something new. Because they're not opportunists, they're hunters. Matter of fact, they're not even hunters. These individuals aren't built to take something from you directly. They rely on your hesitation, your emotional fatigue, because they know they can't overpower you. They need for you to do the work for them. They are not creators, they are takers waiting for a moment when you second guess what God placed in you. They feed on your reactions and not your reality because your actual life isn't collapsing, your internal territory is expanding. But they misread expansion as weakness because you're being stretched. So they believe you can't handle it. So they watch to see if you'll hand over access. You'll ask for help. They wait for the moment when old triggers try to resurface. And your fear becomes their opportunity, not because fear is powerful on its own, but because they want to shape how you interpret your surroundings. So they want you to panic about things that are already under divine order. And they know that if they can influence your interpretation of what is happening to you, they can influence your decisions. So fear doesn't feed them because it's destructive. Fear feeds them because it interrupts your confidence. They rely on that interruption. They thrive on the moment you hesitate, and that's when they'll come. How you doing? You sure you all right? Because they know your calling is stronger than anything they can touch. So the only strategy they have is to manipulate your emotions. And the moment you begin to see them as a confidant or someone to lean on, they see your uncertainty as permanent. And so they're miscalculating you. So they assume you don't have discernment. They assume your emotional intelligence is still underdeveloped. They assume the version of you they once encountered still exists, right? That version of you they can manipulate, that they can get you to do what they do. But what they don't realize is that chosen individuals transform quietly. You evolve without announcing it, and you strengthen without broadcasting it. And by the time they notice you're steady, intentional, and anchored, basically, I'm saying you're grounded, they've already overplayed their position. Chosen individuals are not targeted because they are fragile. They are targeted because they carry impact. Your presence disrupts corruption. Your voice destabilizes deception. Your growth exposes the motives of those around you. And your spiritual progression disturbs people who settle for comfort rather than truth. Vultures circle assignments they can't fulfill, destinies they can't carry, and callings they can never withstand. You are even stronger than the grip of a vulture. They aren't circling you, they're circling what God is elevating in you. The vulture is strong once it gets his grip, so why don't they just grip you and go away with you, fly away? Because they sense the rise before you fully accept it yourself. They fear you to adopt a belief that your expansion is dangerous. They want you to interpret your own momentum as instability. They want you to think you're entering trouble when you're actually entering acceleration. They will attempt to speak confusion into moments that require conviction. They will present concern that is actually control. They will offer advice disguised as limitation. They will ask you questions that sound supportive but are designed to plant doubt, because if they can get you to fear what you're stepping into, they can slow your momentum without even lifting a hand. But see, the moment you stop reacting to their presence, everything reverses. When you stop shrinking, lowering your value, lowering yourself, they lose their influence. When you stop explaining because you recognize who they are, they lose their angle. And when you stop apologizing for elevating, evolving, leveling up, they lose their entrance into your life. When you stop giving emotional access out of guilt, they lose their control. That's when they realize they were never circling a fragile person. They were circling someone who was ascending. Your confidence dissolves their projections. Your spiritual connection dissolves their manipulation. And your awareness dissolves their strategy. So when you're elevating and you're expanding and it hurts and it makes you tired and weak and you're trying to grow into it, they believe and take that to be that you're failing, you're falling. They don't think that that's part of your ascension. That's part of your growing into your gift. Once your fear no longer feeds, they scatter. By the time they're ready to strike, you expand it and they're confused. They thought you were falling off, but you were falling into. And so they retreat and they pretend they were never circling. They pretend they were supportive. They distance themselves because they cannot survive near someone who no longer absorbs their doubt. They withdraw because they cannot influence someone who sees through every tactic. They back because your growth exposes how small their intentions always were. They disappear, not because they want you to win. Oh no. But because they can no longer convince you that you're not already winning. They never circled you because you were collapsing. They thought they were. They circled you because your life was expanding. They did not know that. And they hoped fear would interrupt it, that with them circling, their energy would also scare you. But they hoped and intimidate you. But they hoped hesitation would slow you, but it wasn't. You were moving into your gifts. You were walking into your gifts. You were maturing into your gifts. And they hoped uncertainty would break it. But instead, your awareness was maturing and your discernment was becoming sharper and your soul grew stronger. So, what they misinterpreted as vulnerability was actually transformation. And what they believed would overwhelm you ended up elevating you. You were always rising. Your fear only clouded the view. Now the cloud is gone, and so are they. Welcome to visiting my channel. Stay covered, stay conscious, and stay undefeated. I'll see you on the next one.